Welcome back to Haunt Narratives. Tonight, we are going to be diving deep into one of horror's most ingenious creations.
Oh, absolutely.
Jigsaw.
Yes.
The puppet master of the Saw franchise.
Yeah.
Get ready for a chilling exploration of what makes his character tick. You know him.
Oh, yeah?
The creepy, pale-faced Billy the puppet on the tricycle.
What strikes me about Jigsaw is he's not your typical slasher, you know? He's not just driven by bloodlust. He's got this, disturbing philosophy.
Right.
Blends this twisted morality with the warped sense of justice.
Exactly. It's like he's trying to force his victims to appreciate life, but in the most horrifying way possible.
Right.
So to really understand the monster, we have to first understand the man behind the mask.
Yes.
John Kramer.
John Kramer, exactly. Jigsaw, it was just an ordinary guy, a civil engineer. But his life took a dark turn when he lost his unborn child.
Oh, wow.
Due to a drug addict robbing his wife's clinic. That kind of loss can really shatter a person.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it gets worse.
It does.
John receives a terminal cancer diagnosis.
Oh.
Facing his own mortality, he attempts suicide. He drives his car off a cliff.
Wow.
But incredibly, he survives.
And that's where the transformation begins.
Right.
That suicide attempt becomes a twisted rebirth. You know, John becomes fixated on the idea that people don't appreciate life.
Right.
And he decides to become the one to teach them.
It's terrifying.
It's a terrifying shift in perspective.
Yeah, this is where things get really fascinating.
Okay.
John doesn't just want to punish people, he wants to test them.
Yes.
He creates these elaborate traps, these games as he calls them, that are designed to push people to their absolute limits,
Right.
forcing them to confront their flaws and fight for survival.
The traps themselves are gruesome, no doubt.
Oh, yeah.
But it's the psychology behind them that's truly disturbing. Each trap is meticulously designed to exploit the specific weaknesses of the victim.
It's like he's dissecting their psyche and using their deepest fears against them.
Absolutely. He plays on their guilt, their secrets, their darkest desires. He wants to break them down, to force them to confront their own mortality.
And through this agonizing process, he believes he's actually doing them a favor.
Right.
Helping them to be reborn as better versions of themselves.
A very warped sense of compassion.
It's a completely warped sense of compassion, a truly horrifying form of therapy.
Absolutely. And this is what makes Jigsaw so unsettling.
Right.
He genuinely believes he's a righteous judge.
Oh, yeah.
A savior, even.
Wow.
But his methods are brutal and often deadly.
Yeah.
You know, it raises the question, can you force someone to appreciate life by putting them through absolute hell?
It's a question that haunts you long after the movie ends. And it's one that we'll keep exploring as we delve deeper into the mind of this disturbing character.
Absolutely. His influence spreads.
Right.
He doesn't just target individuals.
Right.
He creates disciples, people who become drawn into his twisted world.
Oh, yeah.
And adopt his deadly philosophy.
Like Amanda Young?
Yes. Amanda's
It's his first apprentice.
His first apprentice.
She's a fascinating case study.
She is.
She starts as a victim, forced to confront her drug addiction through one of Jigsaw's gruesome games.
Yeah.
But instead of hating him,
Right.
she becomes obsessed.
Amanda sees Jigsaw as a savior.
Oh, wow.
Someone who pulled her back from the brink.
Right.
But her trauma, her own personal demons, make her vulnerable to his manipulation.
And she fully embraces his ideology.
Oh, yeah.
She becomes his student, learning how to construct traps, how to orchestrate the games.
Right.
But there's a crucial difference between her and John.
There is. Jigsaw, at least in his own twisted mind,
Right.
believes he's offering a chance at redemption.
Right.
His early games, while horrifying,
Yeah.
often have a way out, a path to survival if the victim is willing to change,
Right.
to confront their flaws.
Look, Amanda's traps are different.
Very different.
They're brutal, almost hopeless.
Yes.
It's as if she's taken Jigsaw's philosophy to its extreme, stripping away any pretense of rehabilitation and focusing solely on punishment.
Her traps become a reflection of her own nihilism.
Wow.
Her own disillusionment with the world.
It's terrifying to think that Jigsaw, a man who believed he was helping people, could inspire someone to become even more ruthless, more cruel.
It speaks to the dangerous nature of his philosophy.
Yeah.
Even with good intentions, or what he perceived as good intentions, he unleashed a force of chaos and violence that he couldn't control.
And then there's Detective Mark Hoffman,
Oh, Hoffman.
another one of Jigsaw's apprentices.
Right.
Now, he's a completely different story.
He is.
Hoffman is a police officer,
Right.
someone who's supposed to uphold the law.
Yeah.
But he harbors a dark secret,
He
a
does.
thirst for vengeance. His sister was murdered by a man who escaped justice.
All right.
So Hoffman takes matters into his own hands, building a trap that mirrors Jigsaw's methods to kill his sister's murderer.
And this act of vigilante justice catches Jigsaw's attention.
Right.
He sees in Hoffman a kindred spirit, someone with the potential to become a true disciple. So instead of turning Hoffman in, Jigsaw blackmails him, forcing him to become his apprentice.
It's a stroke of genius, really pulling a police officer into his twisted game.
Hoffman is trapped.
Right.
Bound by his own dark secret.
Right.
But over time, something shifts within him. He starts to relish the power, the control, the feeling of playing God with people's lives.
He becomes even more ruthless than Amanda, constructing elaborate, multi-layered games that push the boundaries of cruelty.
It makes you wonder, was Hoffman always a monster waiting to be unleashed?
Right.
Or did Jigsaw's influence truly corrupt him, turning a lawman into a killer?
It's a chilling question that speaks to the insidious nature of Jigsaw's legacy.
Absolutely.
He believed he was spreading a message of hope, but in reality he planted the seeds of darkness that continued to grow long after his own death.
And that darkness seeps into every aspect of Jigsaw's world.
Right.
From his methods to his philosophy, even to the chilling symbolism he uses.
Like his calling card, those jigsaw puzzle pieces he cuts from his victims.
Those pieces represent the missing piece of the human puzzle.
Right.
The survival instinct. Or so he claims.
Right.
He wants people to fight for their lives, to claw their way back from the brink.
But there's also a sense of incompleteness, of brokenness to those puzzle pieces.
Yes.
They're a haunting reminder of their victim's vulnerability.
Right.
Their inability to escape his twisted games.
Jigsaw's world is full of these disturbing symbols.
Yeah.
Each one carefully chosen to evoke fear.
Right.
To tap into our primal anxieties.
It's all part of his grand design.
Oh, yeah.
His attempt to control not just the physical,
absolutely,
but also the psychological landscape of his games.
And it's incredibly effective.
Oh, yeah.
Those symbols become ingrained in our minds.
Right.
We see Billy the puppet, that creepy pale-faced figure on the tricycle.
Right.
And we instantly know that someone's about to face a terrifying ordeal.
Billy is more than just a messenger. He's a representation of Jigsaw's twisted innocence. He represents the perversion of childhood.
Right.
The idea that even something seemingly harmless can become an instrument of terror.
And then there's the pig mask.
Oh, yeah?
It's grotesque, repulsive.
Yeah. Great.
Yet somehow alluring.
It represents the filth, the darkness that Jigsaw sees in humanity.
Absolutely.
The need for purification through suffering.
The pig mask is a symbol of our baser instincts, our animalistic nature.
Right.
It's a reminder that beneath the surface of civilization lurks something primal.
Right.
Something dangerous.
Those symbols, they stay with you.
They do.
They become part of your nightmares.
Yes.
And that's part of what makes Jigsaw so effective.
Absolutely.
So terrifying.
He understands the power of imagery, the way it can tap into our deepest fears and haunt us long after the movie ends.
Jigsaw's legacy extends far beyond his physical traps and gruesome games.
It does.
It's about the ideas he represents.
Right.
The questions he raises about morality, justice, and the very nature of humanity.
And those questions linger in the shadows waiting to trap us, just like his victims.
Do we have the strength to face our own darkness?
Yeah.
Would we survive his tests?
Jigsaw forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about ourselves.
Right.
About the fragility of life and the choices we make when faced with the ultimate test.
Right.
And that's what makes him such a compelling and enduring figure in horror.
Right.
He doesn't just scare us, he makes us think.
We've talked about Jigsaw's twisted philosophy, his gruesome methods, the chilling symbolism he uses, but there's another layer to his character that I find particularly fascinating.
Oh, absolutely. Jigsaw is obsessed with time.
Yeah.
It's a recurring theme throughout the Saw films.
Yeah.
Remember, John Kramer was facing his own mortality?
Right.
He was acutely aware that his time was running out.
And he wanted to impart that same awareness to his victims, didn't he?
Yes.
To force them to truly value the time they had left.
Precisely. Almost every game has a clock ticking.
Right.
A deadline looming. It's a constant reminder of the preciousness of life.
Right.
Or at least that's how Jigsaw sees it.
Right.
He believed that by confronting death,
yeah,
by feeling the pressure of time slipping away, people would awaken to the true value of their lives.
It's a terrifying form of motivation, but I can see how it would be effective.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine being trapped in one of his games knowing that every second could be your last.
Right.
Wouldn't that make you reevaluate everything?
It's a psychological torture that goes beyond the physical pain of the tracks.
Right.
It forces the victims to confront their own mortality, to grapple with the reality of their choices.
And the films themselves play with our perception of time, don't they?
They do.
They jump back and forth between past and present.
Yes.
Revealing pieces of the puzzle, gradually keeping us on the edge of our seats.
It's brilliant filmmaking.
Oh, yeah.
It mirrors Jigsaw's own methods. We, the audience, become participants in his game. We're constantly trying to piece together the clues to understand the motivations, to anticipate the twists and turns.
And just when you think you've figured it out, there's another revelation, another layer of complexity. It keeps you guessing right up until the very end.
That's part of the reason why Jigsaw has become such an iconic horror villain.
Right.
He taps into our primal fears.
Yeah.
Our anxieties about death, our fascination with the darker side of human nature.
So what does it all mean? Why are we so captivated by this character even years after his death in the films?
Perhaps it's because he forces us to ask uncomfortable questions about ourselves. Do we truly appreciate the gift of life?
Right.
Are we living our lives to the fullest?
Right.
Or are we sleepwalking through our days, taking our time for granted?
Jigsaw, in his own twisted way, is a reminder to seize the moment.
Yes.
To make every second count.
Absolutely.
He's a dark and disturbing mirror reflecting our own mortality back at us.
And that's the power of great horror.
Right.
It doesn't just scare us, it makes us think.
Yeah.
It makes us question our own values, our own place in the world.
Well, folks, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into the dark world of Jigsaw.
Yeah.
We hope you found this journey as chilling and thought-provoking as we did.
Remember, life is a precious gift.
Yes.
Don't waste it.
And if you enjoyed this episode of Haunt Narratives, be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment.
Absolutely.
Until next time, keep it spooky.